AgTech 360 discusses breakthrough technologies that are impacting growers, businesses, and consumers. Hear from industry and academic experts about what's on the horizon.
Welcome to AgTech 360. Today we're joined by Dr. Pam Marrone, a leader in biologicals and sustainable agriculture. Pam is a member of the National Academy of Engineering and a recent inductee to the National Inventors Hall of Fame. So congratulations for that, first of all. With decades of experience, she has pioneered innovative solutions, advanced farmer adoption, and shaped the future of biologicals and AgTech. So in honor of Women's History Month and National Women in Ag Day, I'm so excited to highlight some of Pam's incredible contributions to science and agriculture. And Pam, thanks for joining me.
Well, it's great to be here, Adrian.
Yeah, so let's dive in. And I wanted to start, before we talk a little bit about you, I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about biologicals and your kind of perspective on them. You've dedicated a lot of your career to advancing the adoption of biological alternatives to synthetic inputs in agriculture. Can you explain, first of all, what are these biological products? So let's start kind of really high level.
Yeah, so biologicals are three kinds. There's ones that control pests. There's ones that reduce crop stress and increase crop yield. Those are called biostimulants, as opposed to biocontrol or biopesticides, which control crop pests. And then there's bionutrients or biofertilizers, which provide nitrogen, phosphorus, et cetera, to the plant, nutrients to the plant. So there's three major categories, and the common theme is that they are based on natural substances or natural microorganisms.
So they could be bacteria or fungal strains, or a plant extract or something like that.
Yeah, they could be, yes, they could be microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, or plant extracts. But the key is, it's not just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe. So there is a very well-defined regulatory pathway, certainly for biocontrol and biopesticides, where just because you're extracting a natural substance or a natural plant extract doesn't mean it's necessarily safe. So you have to prove that it is. And so then when you prove that it is, and it has a non-toxic mode of action, then it can become registered as a biological. Yeah.
And I guess this is an obvious question, but how do biologicals contribute to sustainable agriculture, and what are some of the benefits that you see to these types of products?
Yeah, well, number one, they have to work and provide a return on investment to the customer or the grower, the farmer. And so when biologicals are incorporated into crop production and pest management programs, the growers don't usually see a higher return on investment, higher yields, higher quality compared to their chemical-only programs, number one. So it's economic. And then there's all these other benefits. For example, you can spray right up to harvest and not have to worry about residues, chemical residues that are regulated around the globe, so you can export and go. You can spray in the morning, be back in the field in the afternoon with your labor crew because you have very short reentry intervals. They generally don't harm beneficials, so like honeybees, pollinators, and lady beetles and lacewings and your predatory bugs. So farmers notice an increase in biodiversity. They're good for soil health. And my old company in the past had the first study proving that you could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 90% by using biologicals. So these are the benefits.
So now coming to you, Pam, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got into agriculture, and I guess, then into biologicals, as it were?
Well, it goes way back from when I was a little girl, because I grew up in Southern Connecticut on a 30, 40 acre mini farm, and there were, they're now called spongy moths, but back then they were called gypsy moths. And these are caterpillars that devastated the forest. And they would come through every 5 years or so, and they would really literally denude the forest. And so my father had this seedling dogwood tree planted right outside the kitchen window, still there. And it's right now quite large. And the spongy moths were destroying it. So he went out and he went to get something at the store, and he found Carbaryl 7 still on the market today, and he used it. But everything within 24 hours fell off the tree. My mother went out and she dragged me out, and she showed me all the lady beetles and bees and everything that were dead as well. And she was furious. So she made him find something else, and he went and found the first ever biological pesticide called BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, based on a bacteria, and he sprayed that instead. And, you know, when I asked him about it, he goes, well, I don't know if it works, but it's good for the environment. It makes your mother happy. So that, you know, stuck with me. And I was determined to develop a career in finding these kinds of solutions.
And so then how did things progress from there? Because I know you've done, you had an academic, portion of your career as well, of course.
Well, I went to Cornell undergrad in entomology and then PhD at NC State. Yes, in entomology, very good school. Great background. I was part of a National Science Foundation, the first ever project to characterize agriculture as an ecosystem. And it was a soybean agro-ecosystem. So I got, I'd say, indoctrinated, yes, into ecologically based IPM. That really set me on the career. And then I was career center at NC State, took a bunch of us over to different companies to where we could get jobs. And one of them was Monsanto Company. And I was hired as one of their only entomologists to set up a new program looking for new ways to control pests, not chemicals. And I set up a microbial natural product screening program, one of the first in the industry, and fell in love with microbes. And that started everything. And then after that, was recruited by a very obscure company at the time, less than $2 billion in revenue. We're very different today, Novo Nordisk, to start up a company in Davis, California, to look for microbes to control pests. And so I moved to Davis. And after 5 years, they had some issues in their other businesses, in industrial enzymes and insulin. So they sold us to our largest competitor. I started AgriQuest. Doing the same thing, screening, looking for microbes. At AgriQuest, we discovered the largest biofungicide, now still on the market today and still growing, and the biggest biofungicide called Serenade, and now under Bayer, because AgriQuest was later sold to Bayer. And I left and then started up Marrone Bioinnovations, took it public, and then it was sold to Bioseries Crop Solutions in 2022. When my non-compete was up in 23, I started the Invasive Species Corporation, where I am today, with my former president and CFO at Marrone Bio, as well as our chief technology officer at Marrone Bio, all three of us. And we are tackling with biologicals some really different pests this time, pests in water like invasive zebra and quagga mussels, invasive fish, invasive crustaceans, but we're also going after the Holy Grail, looking for weed control bioherbicides.
So I was going to ask you, out of all of those projects and products that you've been involved with, which do you feel has been the most impactful, or maybe you're the most proud of? But it sounds like you've still got that to do.
Well, we still have more
in some ways.
Well, there's a number of them I'm proud of, and what I am most proud of in my career is getting products on the market that farmers or customers can use. So Serenade, which is on the market today and quite large, it's 100 something million in sales under Bayer. It was found from a peach orchard in Fresno County, that bacterium, and it's gone through version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.0, and it's still being tweaked. You can do that with microbes, but it was also, a lot of people don't know this, the first ever organically listed product in the garden section at Walmart stores in 2003. So it was in every single Walmart store, Serenade Garden Disease Control. So I was really proud of that. And I have 3 products now, also in Walmart, but under a different brand called Arbor, A-R-B-E-R, and licensed that to a woman a great woman entrepreneur, Vanessa Dawson, who has started Arbor, and she took 3 of my products in there. So besides Serenade, I'm also very proud of Venerate, which is the bioinsecticide in the Arbor line. And Venerate is a new species of bacterium that is on about 40 million acres in the US as a seed treatment under the BioST brand. And it controls nematodes and corn rootworms and other soil pests. So those are the 2 of the things I'm really very proud of.
So you mentioned a successful entrepreneur woman, and you are as well. Tell us a little bit about your experience coming through these different companies, but also maybe earlier, even as you got into agricultural research. What has been your experience, and what maybe learnings are there for women that are currently looking at a career in agriculture or in entrepreneurship right now?
Well, it's very different back then than it is today, because there's a lot more women. I mean, I was the only woman in the room most of the time, and that was interesting. And so there's a lot of opportunities today for women entrepreneurs. I'm seeing a lot of women-led and women starting up companies. And so that's really great. It's a career path. It's the jobs in academia are far and few between. Become a assistant professor and on, as you know. And then the job in government, I don't think most people would want to go into that today. And then it's unpredictable career path. And then industry, lots of jobs in industry, but a lot of folks want to go into the more sustainable, do something impactful for the world. So that's where, and do something really innovative and have control over what they're doing. And that's what's great about an entrepreneurial career. So, I had many challenges, but because I was often the only woman in the room, I stood out. And when I was raising money, I stood out, and I was able to really, I was very good at raising money because I was very unique, and the investors were intrigued. Oh, who's this person? Who's this woman? As is then and all through my career and today, the biggest thing is that women have a narrower range of acceptable behaviors. And if you're too strong, then she's so strong, or whatever. And then you go like, well, most men CEOs, all men CEOs I know are very strong. And so there are certain parameters around acceptable behavior for women. That's still true today. Less so, but it is still true today. Yeah.
The North Carolina Plant Sciences Initiative impacts lives through innovative applications and discoveries. By leveraging cutting-edge research and technology, we address global challenges related to agriculture, sustainability, and human health.
Would you have any advice then for women going into this field?
Well, I think that what's really critical is that it's really crowded right now in the startup field arena in ag bio and ag tech. So there's a lot of companies, and so you're going to be competing for investor dollars and customer mind. And so what's really critical is, male or female, whoever, you have to develop something that's truly unique and going to be differentiated in the market and offer your customer a superior return on investment than what's already out there. And so I do have a lot of entrepreneurs coming to me with ideas and asking for advice, and I go, okay, if it's another way to get to the same end, for example, you're going to find a new microbe that's going to give you 5 to 7% yield increase. Well, on corn or soybean, there's enough companies doing that. You better be 10+% consistently 90% of the time showing that yield increase. So the bar has been raised. But what amazes me is that these entrepreneurs call me and they pitch me their idea, and sure enough, it's something truly unique. So that's what's so great. We still have really big problems to solve in food and ag. I mean, still, greenhouse gas emissions are still 12% of all greenhouse gas emissions still from ag and food production. We still have too much food waste. We still need to improve soil health and reduce the amount of chemical input. So we still have a lot of things to do.
So I mean, do you feel then we are just scratching the surface in terms of what those types of products can deliver, or do you feel that we're further along than that?
I would say, they're certainly going mainstream. I had to scratch and claw back then, and they were pigeonholed only for organic. Now it's accepted, and I had to change this paradigm, that instead of just standalone for organic, you can integrate them into programs with other tools, including chemicals, and see better results. So I think we're just at the beginning, although they're mainstreaming. If you look at the chemical pesticide market, let's say it's 70 billion. Okay. And let's say all biologicals, all categories, biocontrol, biostimulants, bionutrients are 8 billion. There's Shane Thomas, who has a great newsletter, Upstream Insights, who says that by 2040, they're going to cross over, because you have double-digit growth of biologicals and single-digit or flat growth of chemicals. So at some point, they're going to cross over. So we still have a lot of growth. If you look at Brazil, where the biologicals are growing very, very fast and very quickly, most growers only use one spray of biologicals, okay, one treatment. So, and that's true generally around the world. They're often used for early in the season before the pests build or diseases build up, or the last spray to manage residue. So there's still a lot of opportunity. Yes.
So I want to get into farmer adoption in a second, but another question I wanted to ask you, you described a lot of the products that you've been involved in or are actually developing today. But when you look across the entire industry or the entire AgTech sector, what do you see that's exciting to you in the biological space? Do you see different types of biologicals that you think are going to be impactful down the road?
Well, I do think there's still a lot more to be done in the microbial space because we only have utilized a very, very teeny, probably just point something percent of the microbes out there. There's still a lot to be discovered. And then with the new tools of AI and machine learning, advanced genomics, precision fermentation, there's still a lot of things to be discovered with the microorganisms. Then we have whole new categories of biologicals being developed, such as RNAi and peptides. So there's a lot of companies working on those now. Peptides are probably a bit more advanced. They're approaching the market. RNAi, you have the first one on the market with Colorado potato beetle control by Greenlight, but you can control any pest or pathogen or weed with RNA interference. So there's a lot more to go there. We still need better ways to stabilize these natural molecules and natural substances. So the whole area of an ecosystem building up of companies that provide new formulation technologies and then ways to ferment microbes and produce even peptides and fermentation more efficiently. Those are the exciting things I'm seeing.
Right. And now talking about getting these things on the market and scale up and all these types of things. I mean, I wanted to kind of get your input on two areas. One is on farmer adoption. The other one is on the regulatory policies and regulatory system as it exists today, and maybe what it could evolve into. So firstly, with farmers, you mentioned in Brazil, farmers may be spraying only once currently. What can we do as an industry to build trust in these products in the eyes of farmers and get them adopted more broadly?
Yeah, when you look at every farmer survey, they come out every year, and different surveys from different market research companies, and about half the growers use biologicals and half have never tried them. And the barrier to never trying them is that they might have a perception that they're weaker and they don't work, and most of the time they don't know how to use them, and so they're scared to try them. But the surveys show that once they try them, they rank them very highly and they learn how to use them. 8 out of 10 often on average of hundreds of thousands of farmers that have been surveyed every year. So that is the secret, is that helping them understand the category and how to use them successfly, how to get them to work on their farm. And so companies that are in this space really need to do that. They need to be good at explaining the mode of action, how the products work, when it works, when you use it, how many sprays, is soil type, soil conditions affecting it, weather, et cetera, an amount of water, all these different things. And so that education piece is really, really critical for farmer adoption. So we have a program with Western growers and a New Zealand group called Platform 10. You're involved, Adrian. And what we've done is vetting the new innovations in biologicals and then picking some and doing on-farm trials to integrate them on the farm in a more realistic situation that might be small plot trials. So you, coming from the land-grant universities, have a huge role to play here. One of the problems is that you'll see little small plot trials that might not really be what happens on the farm. Like they might inoculate diseases, plant pathogens, and then you get this really high amount of disease, and then they'll put in biological standalone against the best chemical cocktail, and really not tailored to how a biological is used. And so, and then then there'll be a stain on the biologicals because someone will stand up at a grower meeting saying, "Well, I tried to test that, it didn't work." So there's a huge opportunity for land grant extension specialists and researchers to also understand how these products work better and test them in more realistic situations and to integrate them and show how they work. And I see good work being done at NC State, another highlight, another really good place that's really learning and educating on how you can do this is also Cornell.
And then on the regulatory side, you mentioned also that Brazil has a favorable regulatory environment right now for biologicals. Not necessarily seeing the same thing in the United States or in Europe. What needs to change in order to get these products on the market quicker and also support, these AgTech companies that are unable sometimes to sustain themselves during these very long regulatory timelines that they have to endure?
Yeah, so Brazil is a highlight, growing the fastest growing biologicals market and is becoming rapidly the biggest. And it is because it has a fast regulatory. So on average, 13 months to get a biopesticide through. That's amazing. But also, I just mentioned on that education piece, one of the first trialings of growers with biologicals in Brazil was a failure. But then each state set up these educational sort of extension outreach to help growers understand how to use them. And once they learned how to use them, then the sales took off. So great regulatory process. US was the model of the world, but there were so many biologicals submitted to the EPA that the Pesticide Registration Improvement Act, which is authorized by Congress about every 5 years, so we're now in PREA 5 and we're going into PREA 6, estimated the amount of staff that the EPA would need way off. So for 30 to 40 new active ingredient registrations a year, and we're at 80. So the EPA staffing is far, in the Biopesticide Pollution Prevention Division, the BPPD, far lower than it needs to be to keep up with the pace of innovation. That's a good thing that we have so much innovation, but a bad thing we don't have the staff. And with government cuts increasing, we need to tell our legislators that if you cut more or don't have the staff to do these new products, then you're not helping U.S. farmers. Other countries like Brazil will win out in competition of getting these new tools, and farmers need new tools, and also jobs created by companies, as you said, that is the long time frame. If it takes 3+ years for a registration in the U.S. now, then those companies have to sustain themselves through that time. So what companies are doing? They're going to Brazil and getting their product first. So, a savvy entrepreneur is going to go where you can get revenue first to be able to sustain yourself. Also, I'm seeing some big companies, like, bigger agri-chemical companies, who are coming in earlier. Usually they expect you to do, as the entrepreneur, do all the work and de-risk. But I am seeing some coming in and some saying they'll help foot the bill on the regulatory if they see a really powerful biological. So that's also good to see. Europe is a mess, takes way too long, a system designed for chemical pesticide registration, but the trade group, IBMA, BPIA in the US, great trade group that's really lobbying hard on the US side, and IBMA, the trade group for Europe, is lobbying very hard and making the case continuously, unwaveringly, that with EU stop banning all these chemicals, and the growers then left without solutions. Why aren't you accelerating the biologicals? So I'm seeing itty bitty progress there.
Okay, well, perhaps some positive vibes for the future. So to wrap up and kind of switching gears again, coming back to you, if you don't mind, Pam, we did this pod partly to celebrate Women's History Month, to celebrate National Women in Ag Day. And, you're a special guest. You've had tremendous success in this industry, tremendous respect from across the entire sector. Tell me how you feel about your legacy as it is so far, because I know you've not finished building it.
Yeah, got to get that bioherbicide.
Yeah, and what are you proud of?
Yeah, so I am proud of way back when I was way ahead of my time, changing the paradigms of how these products are used to show that they can be integrated into programs and that farmers can get great results, and with very good products that can compete in the marketplace. And so that's really my legacy. And also, as an entrepreneur, showing you can do it differently. And instead, so the model is spending chemicals, spending hundreds of millions up front and then 10 to 12 years to get a product and launch it big. And I basically pioneered the way that the tech industry does it. And that is, you launch your version 1.0, it's good enough, and then a grower wants it and uses it, and then you improve it, and you have version 2.0, and you can do that with microbes because you can tweaking them, improving that. So that was a radical business model back then, and I got a lot of criticism for it. So it's great to see that now this innovate at speed, getting your minimum viable product out first, and then keep continuously improving it and launching new versions is now an accepted business model. So I'm also very proud of that.
Pam, thank you so much.
AgTech 360 shares relevant news and breakthroughs with audiences across the globe. Stay connected and join the conversation by following NCPSI on social media.